Right. Okay, guys. I think I'm recording. So, take one, I guess. I'm Frank. And I am a hobby shooter. Firearms. I compete in pistol shooting, bullseye pistol shooting at 25 meters. And today, well, this evening, I'm going to be talking about this. This is, well, in America they call it the Springfield Hellion, but I'm not in America, I'm in Croatia. So in Croatia, it's called the VHS-2S or something. Anyways, you can tell the what's made in Croatia and what's for the American market, because here it actually says HS product and it actually says made in Croatia, whereas if you were to get a US model from Springfield, there would actually be the words Hellion roller marked stamped here, right? Anyways, I've had this rifle for about 2 years now, and I've put about 2,500 rounds through it, in my estimation. So I think enough time has passed where I can talk about what I think about it. This isn't my first semi-auto rifle, by the way. I did own an AR-15, an M&P 15 Sport 2. So yeah, I have some experience, although very limited. I'd still consider myself a novice, even though to some normal people would sound like 5,000 rounds, or yeah, around 5,000 rounds, that you would not be a novice. I still consider myself a novice because shooting is pretty hard. Anyways, why did I buy this rifle? So I sold my old rifle and I bought this because this does have a military background, which means it's reliable. And since it's the rifle of the military in the country I live in at the moment, I think it would make most sense for me that I familiarize myself with it and get good with it. So that was the reasoning why I got this. I am not a competition shooter. I'm just a hobbyist that's really interested in shooting. And so that's why I got this. There were lots of videos on YouTube explaining what you get with this. So I'm not going to bore you too much with the details. I will talk a little bit about the rifle, what I did with it. So this is an LPVO, a 1:6. This is for the one. I like LPVOs because it's a great optic to put on a gun that you don't know exactly what you want to do with it. So it's like an everything optic. So it can do 1x and it can do 6x. So yeah. Plus, since it's a reticle, you don't rely on batteries, even though this does have a red dot in it. This one's from Vortex. And this is a light. This is a cloud defensive light. I think it's the Rain 2.0. Yeah. I like the light because you also get a light switch and the light, and so it all comes in one package, so you don't need to buy tail caps and pressure switches separately, so that's a good thing. So anyways, 2,500 rounds in, I feel like I can give my impression on this rifle. So let's talk about actually how I shoot this rifle. I shoot this rifle with friends. We usually set up some small 2-gun stages at our range. Our the range where I shoot at is 100 meters max. So yeah, so we can shoot up to 100 meters, so I don't know how it performs at long distance, but maybe one day I'll get to try it. But we can move on to accuracy. So as far as accuracy goes, I do have some 2 targets here. Now, I'm not a target shooter, but this one, if you can see this group here, so you can see 4 bullet holes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This has to be the best group I have ever shot with this rifle. Of course, I was on a bench rest. I was relaxing. Obviously, this is a flyer. This is me. But now, again, the thing with shooting groups is that you can get lucky with groups sometimes. But this is an indicative. Not every group will look like this. Plus, this ammo was some mystery mix ammo that someone sold me. I don't know. But I'll show you another group which I think is more indicative not only of this rifle but of my skill in general. So again, I'm not a target shooter. This is with 77 grain PMC. I don't know if PMC is Gucci ammo, but it is 77 grain and it is optimized for accuracy. This is a 10-shot group. Even though it was 10 shots, I do consider this I don't know, I guess this is me with this rifle. This would be like one group here, this would be one cluster here. I guess these 3 happened because I changed my position, or I changed some way. I was prone on the bag, and I don't know where this is from. But 10-shot group, this isn't amazing, but I wanted to show a not so amazing group and one amazing group, just so it doesn't come off as me selling the rifle as super accurate sniper rifle, right? So another thing I wanted to mention is the first 100 rounds or so, I was getting stovepipes. A stovepipe is when... Actually, one second. One second. So this is a dummy round. So a stovepipe is when a case is ejected. It's supposed to fly out here, but for some reason it didn't fly out. It would get stuck here. So the bolt would be coming back too fast and shutting on an empty case. This happened twice in the first 100 rounds or so, and then it never happened again. Maybe it's because I wasn't shouldering it. Maybe because I wasn't shouldering the rifle as I should. Maybe because the recoil spring was a bit tight out of the box. But ever since then, it's been smooth shooting. So those are the only 2 or 3 issues I've had with it. As I said before, I just set up stages like normal. Just sometimes I'd shoot statically at 100 and I'd run and gun with it anywhere from 25 meters up to 80. So yeah, and it's been very, very convenient. I'm very happy with this rifle. So I guess I should start on what I like. What I like about this rifle, especially this rifle, is the form factor. This is what they would call a bullpup, which means the trigger mechanism is behind, or the feeding mechanism for the ammo is behind the trigger. This saves you space because it just does. It makes it shorter. So if you were to compare a rifle, a 16-inch rifle compared to this, it would be the difference would be noticeable. Actually, I have a 16-inch rifle in a normal platform. One second. So this is a 308, but in 16 inches, and you can see the difference. So yeah, and this is all the way collapsed in. So if I were to pull this out to me, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot longer. So I just like the form factor. It takes, damn, yikes! It takes up less space. And of course you can get a normal rifle, a normal platform, and a shorter barrel, but if you cut the barrel off of a 223 rifle, you are compromising its performance. And there are plenty of people that will say you can touch people out to 500, 600 meters with a 10-inch or an 11-inch, and that's all fine and good, but well, what is that bullet going to do to the target at 500, 600 meters? It's not enough to just touch it. There has to be an effect on target. And I know none of us, well, at least I'm not going to be a special forces person or whatever. But let's be realistic. We all know why we buy these things. Let's just be honest with ourselves. So, yes, a shorter barrel in an orthodox platform is very wieldable and probably feels nicer. Giving up 5 inches is a lot. It's a big compromise, and I don't think that's a compromise I like. Which is why, given the choice, I take a bullpup in 16-inch over an orthodox platform in 10 inches. My 2 cents. Okay, rant over. Another thing I like about this platform is that it's a short stroke piston, meaning that you don't have to clean it as often. I've cleaned it twice in 3 years of owning this. And by cleaning, I just mean wiping the bolt down and just putting some Ballistol on it. So I don't think it's thoroughly cleaning, but just normal cleaning. Another thing I like about this is that this rifle can be taken down very easily with push pins. They're captive push pins, and all the key functioning parts of this rifle are not held together by screws. So they're held together by, I mean, there are no screws here that you have to worry about being back down. The only screws I can see are here, and they have more to do with the rail. So even if these do come loose, which I don't know why they would come loose, but even if they did come loose, the rifle would still be 100% functional because it can still shoot, right? So it doesn't compromise the function of the rifle where the screws are, because I know if I mean, there are horror stories of SIGs. I mean, SIG pops to mind right now, where the handguard was moving around because of screws, because of loose screws that weren't torqued to spec. Whereas these screws here on the VHS, on the Hellion, are completely, well, not completely, they're a little bit, well, they're mostly, there is no consequence to these coming loose, right? Or at least I haven't, or at least I don't see that as an issue. Another thing I like about this, what else do I like? Another thing I like is is, hang on, I'm looking at my document here. Bear with me. Bear with me while this document misbehaves. So another thing I like is, well, it's completely ambidextrous. So the controls, so the safety is on both sides, left hand and right hand. This charging handle can be swung left and right, and the bolt, there is a bolt release, by the way. The bolt release is here, and the ejection port. Now, admittedly, you have to take apart the bolt and do a little switcheroo, but there is a ejection port on the other side. So if you're a lefty, you won't have to eat brass. Another thing I like is that this, since it's a short stroke piston, well, I don't think it has that to do with the piston, but it is suppressor ready. There is, because the gas block here has a setting for suppressed and non-suppressed. So if, or should I say when, suppressors become legal over here, I should have no problem suppressing this. Another thing I like is that it's optics ready. So there's Picatinny rail across the whole top, which means that I can just mount any optic or red dot of my choice. Another thing I like is the M-lock on the handguard, so I can mount a light. And there are QD mounts. There are QD mounts here, here, and here. So if you want to mount a sling, you can do that right out of the box. No problemo. So that's what I like, right? It's feature rich. I think it's relatively accurate. There are plenty of videos on YouTube with shooters who are better than me, hitting ringing steel at 1,000 yards, which is around 1,000 meters. So yeah, those are the things I like. What are the things I don't like? Well, since we're being honest here, there are things that I don't like. One thing I don't like is the trigger. This is a very mushy two-stage, I'd say two-stage trigger. So there's a creep, this is the wall, and then it pops. And it's not a light trigger either. It's maybe what you American kids would say 8 pounds, which is around 3.5, 4, maybe 4 kilos. So it's not an easy trigger. If you shoot nice pistols and nice rifles and then shoot this, you will definitely notice. So the trigger isn't nice, but that's just the nature of bullpups, because the trigger pack is actually here, and the trigger itself is here. So there's a bar connecting from here to here. So you can imagine that you can't, so it's not as nice. The trigger isn't nice. Sorry guys, it isn't. Another thing we have to take into account with this, what I think is a minus, is the weight. This is a chunky rifle. It's 4.5 kilos or 9 pounds, no. Yeah, around 9 pounds in American. So not light. And what I've noticed is that it's insanely overbuilt here. And when I take out the bolt and the op rod, there's a lot of meat on that thing, a lot of metal. And I think that is the consequence of this being a military rifle. They just overbuild things so they last longer and they don't fall apart or whatever. But that makes it heavier than what would your normal AR platform. Another bad thing number three bad things, is the length of pull. So if this was a normal rifle, I think the pistol grip being here would be perfect for me, but since this is a bullpup, the pistol grip is all the way back here, so all the way up here. So this took a lot of getting used to, yeah. But if you train with it, it should be normal. However, it is a long length of pull, and sometimes I still wish, 2.5, 3 years later, I still wish the length of pull was shorter. Another thing, bad thing number 4, is the height over bore. So this optic is very high over the barrel. Now that is a popular trend today with AR platforms, because everyone thinks they'll be shooting with passively with night goggles. They're making these crazy mounts. I'm telling you guys, the closer the optic is to the barrel, the better. And this is not close. This is not close at all. So if you're shooting at anything, if you have headbox shots at 10 meters and in, you have to be aware of the offset. The offset is excessive. Very, very excessive. Right. Those are the bad things. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on the rifle now. My thoughts on the rifle. This is a great rifle if you want a semi-auto rifle in an intermediate caliber. A one and done rifle, and it's one and done, so you're not buying it for anything specific. So you want 223. You're not sure if you're going to be target shooting or dynamic shooting, and you just want something maybe a little bit different but short. Yeah, this is great. This is great. Just take the time to learn it and use it, and you will get used to it, right? So I think this is a great rifle. So I wrote down here, a great rifle for someone who wants a one and done semi-auto in 223. That's it. If you are serious about competition and you will be pushing par times and placements in matches, you would be better served with an AR pattern rifle. It'll just be better. So this is not a competition rifle, which is why you don't see this at competitions. Barricades, there are barricades at competitions, and I have a feeling that those barricades were specifically designed, maybe unintentionally or unconsciously, but they had the AR platform in mind when they designed those barricades, and you will just be torturing yourself on the barricades with this. Another thing is the trigger will hold you back in competition. This trigger isn't fast, so you can forget about fast double taps. Well, you can double tap with this fast, but it won't be as easy with an AR-15, right? So not a serious competition rifle, but depends what competition, basically. There are people on YouTube that do compete with this. I found one guy, his name is, now I'm blanking on it. Convention Rejected. Yes, Convention Rejected. He takes this to 2-gun matches, and he does quite well. And well, my ambition is next year, well, maybe in 6 months, to take this to a Lynx Brutality match and compete with it if I can get a ticket. So those are my thoughts on the rifle. I would like to conclude this video with some tips and some myths. Okay, so the myth is, there is a myth that bullpups are ergonomically impossible, that they're inferior. I think that's just a training issue. I watched the review from James Reeves from TFB TV when he reviewed the Hellion. He gave it a very good review. I agreed with most of it. What he did was he told everyone to pinch the release. Don't pinch the release. If you're going to use the bolt release, I suggest you just use the hook technique. So you pretend this is my support hand. So I reload the mag, I put the mag in, and then I just pull my index finger back. Just pull the index finger back, and you hook the release. No pinching required. So you just pull the index finger back until you latch onto it and just pull it back, and it's a gross motor skill, whereas pinching is a fine motor skill. So that's a myth. You can get fast with this. You can fast reload with this. Not as fast as with an AR-15, but within half a second. Half a second isn't a long time if you're reloading in transitions, right? Another thing, so that's a myth. That's a myth and a tip in one. Another tip I would suggest is that, well, in my personal experience, there is no high ready. So I'm never waiting like this. For me, it's always, since it's a bullpup, it's always in my shoulder, and there's only low ready for me, right? So I never hold it like this, because I think it's just too clumsy to bring it up to fire. Whereas if it's low ready, it's practically my shoulder already. Just bring it up and go to town. So yeah, those will be my thoughts on the VHS-2S, or as the Americans would call it, the Hellion. I will try and include some B-roll in this video. And thank you for watching.